Hi, this is the video in regards to the process of acquiring knowledge by Vedas for Life project, and I would like to begin with the way how we perceive our world using our senses, and this is something that is in the Vedic philosophy is considered to have the four defects of a conditioned soul, and it starts from that we have the imperfect senses. We commit mistakes. We live in some form of an illusion state of mind sometimes, and voluntarily or not, we would cheat others. So to begin with the imperfect senses, it means that we can either see the world, or we can hear something from it. We can hear the sounds. We can smell the smells. We can touch it, or we can perceive it with our taste using our tongue. So let's take for instance that we're not able to perceive the infrasound or ultrasound with our ears, but the thing about it that we are not able to perceive it with our senses, our imperfect senses, but at the same time we're able to detect it somehow using some kind of the devices that the science has invented at some point, and using that we could either perceive the waves that we cannot hear with our ears. We can perceive the waves of the spectrum beyond the red or the violet, something that is the infrared or ultraviolet, something that we cannot perceive with our senses, and this is one of the reasons why we cannot perceive the world as it is, due to having the imperfect senses. And even if we create the devices that are to some point allow us to perceive the world on a deeper level, it does not allow us actually to perceive the higher truth, like God or the soul or anything like that. So the second thing about this that actually comes from the fact that we have the imperfect senses is that we commit mistakes. In the psychology, there is something that is called the human factors and the engineering. So basically, the mistakes that we can make during to being inattentive, or not being able to see some things, and basically we would sometimes make mistakes. Sometimes we would write down the wrong digit, or a wrong letter, or we could send something to someone, like to the wrong address, or to the wrong person, or anything like that. And based on these two, there comes the third one, which is called the living illusion, or in Maya. There is the Sanskrit term Maya, which means the illusory energy, the illusory energy of God. And basically, we sometimes have the wrong conclusions about this world. Sometimes we don't know what is right and what is wrong. Sometimes being inattentive. Sometimes not having just enough knowledge about something, or not enough time to learn something new, or to ask about it. So basically, we would sometimes have a delusion state of mind, and this is one of the facts that we have as the conditioned souls in this material world. And based on these three, we basically communicate with others, with the people, organizations, and we have to communicate to some extent with other systems, just take in general. And we, of course, would either voluntarily or not, we would cheat others, like sometimes not telling the truth, either on purpose or not, or due to our delusion state of mind and everything like that. So we have the imperfect senses. Based on that, we would sometimes commit mistakes. We live in some form of the illusion, having sometimes the delusion state of mind, and we, either voluntarily or not, we would cheat others. And this is something that does not actually allow us to learn the higher truths. And to proceed with this, in the Vedic philosophy, there are the three ways of how we acquire knowledge. And the first one is called the pratyaksha, which is basically knowledge that we receive through our senses. This is what is sometimes called the empirical way of knowledge. And this is imperfect because of the four defects of a conditioned soul. If we go a little further, we will see that there is the anumana, which means the knowledge obtained through logic conclusions. So imagine we don't see something, but based on the logic and some form of conclusions or calculations, we would understand or make a conclusion that something is there or something is not there. So this is what is called the anumana. And if we take a look at the scientific method of knowledge, this is something that is called the ascending method, and it's basically based on first we have the observation. So it's connecting our senses with the sense objects, like for instance with our eyes. Using our eyes, we connected with the form or color of objects, and we could see that there is either the different types of forms, different kind of color, different types of letters, digits, different coding systems, and everything like that. This is something that we perceive with our eyes, or with our ears. We could perceive the sound from infrasound to ultrasound. And everything like that. So based on the observation, we make a question in regards to if something actually works this way or other. And once it's formed, we go to the hypothesis on this probably works under these and that conditions. And then after that, we set up the experiment just to make sure that it is true. And if it's not, then we go back to the question and hypothesis question, to the question and hypothesis section, and we reform it in order to set up the experiment in accordance with the question and hypothesis. And once it's done, and if it's done correctly, then we go to the analysis on why a certain thing worked or why it didn't, why it works sometimes or not, and under which conditions. And based on that, we make a conclusion on basically science is made is based on how to control this material reality in order to make our life better. Basically, not just better, but simply more comfortable for our body and senses. So this is basically one of the main goals of science, to make it comfortable for body and mind. And as we can see that the modern scientific method is based on the pratyaksha and anumana, which means the acquiring knowledge through our imperfect senses and trying to make conclusions out of it. And this is something that is called the ascending method of knowledge. So we try to learn things, like as many as possible, but at the same time, due to imperfection of these two methods, this is one of the reasons why we cannot perceive the higher realities, like be it the spiritual world, God, soul, or like why we're here and everything like that. So something that actually religion answers the questions for. Basically, science answers the question how, in regards to how to manipulate this material reality in order to extract as many sensual pleasures as possible, while religion actually answers the question of why, in regards to why we're here and everything like that. And so the third way of acquiring knowledge is what is called the shabda. The shabda means the word in language of Sanskrit, and it's basically the three main sources: the shastras, or the spiritual scriptures, gurus, or spiritual masters, and sadhus, which means the saintly persons. So basically, the reason why this method is considered to be something that we could trust is because this is something that was received at some point through the revelations It's mostly written down in different religious systems, like be it Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, many other world religions, where the saintly persons in these traditions, they have acquired this form of knowledge through revelation. It was at some point written down in the Holy Scriptures, which in the language of Sanskrit called the Shastras, and this is what is called the descended way of acquiring knowledge. So it means that something that comes from above to us. And so the Shastras are the Holy Scriptures that we could read, that we could meditate on, that we could apply in our lives. And as an example of how the spiritual scriptures are applied, we can find them in the gurus, or the spiritual masters, or in saintly persons. And the reason about these two forms are, the thing about these two forms is that these people, they have to live in accordance with the Holy Scriptures, and to be some form of an example of how this knowledge is actually implied, and they should not contradict the scriptures. So basically, that's it for today. The pratyaksha is the knowledge that we acquire from our senses that are imperfect. There is also the anumana, which means the knowledge that we obtained through logic conclusions, and there is the shabda, or the knowledge that was obtained from the authority source, and which is the shastras, spiritual scriptures, the gurus, or spiritual masters, and sadhus, the saintly persons. Thank you for your attention.